I wanted to do a deep dive today into the esoteric understanding and the story behind Cain and Abel. It's really important to understand because there was created first from Sophia an archon when she looked away from source. So that means that this archon was disconnected from source. Source is unity consciousness. It is working well with others. And this break in the upper echelons of the dimensional realities created a lot of falls. Falls that were separate from source, that created war, duality complexes. And this archon that she created was named YHWH, Yahweh or Jehovah. She encapsulated him into a paloma, which is a cloud of light, thinking that he was light. He believed he was the Almighty and the only true God, which was a grave mistake. That later was established when both Sophia and Jehovah fell into density and created the physical world realities, because a lot of the Gnostics understand that there is more in the spiritual levels, in the non-physical, than there is in the physical. Anyway, so in this Garden of Eden, he created Adam, and he tried to force a divine feminine, Lilith, to be Adam's first wife. And Lilith was a sovereign being connected to source. She would not bend to his rule. So she was demonized. And then he created Eve to come forth from Adam. There was a serpent, which is signified by a lot of things, by the Kundalini, and by awakening and enlightenment. And this was already within the template of the angelic human. Anyway, this serpent had intercourse with Eve and created Cain. And then Eve was already pregnant, went out and had intercourse with Adam, and she became pregnant with Abel through Adam. Now, one line belongs to an archon and one line does not. And there was an ancient prophecy that said, I will place enmity between your seed and his seed. She will bruise you in the head, and he'll bruise you in the heel. Later on, when Cain and Abel were growing up together, they were known as twins, but they weren't full twins. They had different fathers. They did not get along. Cain was peaceable. he created a offering of vegetables from the first fruits of his garden. Abel took care of livestock and slaughtered his livestock to create a blood sacrifice to his archon god, Jehovah. Now, how do blood sacrifices come into view when we are considering wars, when we are considering certain ceremonies? Well, one example of blood sacrifices is the royal house of Bath. That house was called that so because they literally immersed themselves in human blood and animal blood and drank adrenochrome. And that is adrenalized blood. There are human hunting parties. This goes back to the Vlad the Impaler, back to vampires, back to some very secret societies and upper echelons of the Behemoth, the Black Sun cults, and all were done in a way that created suffering and more contrast. Now, we are living in the times of revelation, in the times of the unveiling, in the times of the conclusion of this scenario. Now, they say in the scriptures that the first will be last and the last will be first. This is true in the planetary concepts and constructs. Our last planet in our solar system is known as Pluto. Pluto entered Aquarius in November, and we entered a different Yuga cycle in March. Now, this time construct, in working with the cosmic clock, in working with the Yuga cycle change, and in leading the planetary concepts, is bringing forth great change and unveiling, and a window to that aspect was seen through the movie The Wizard of Oz, when they get to the Emerald City and they are talking to the wizard. The wizard is sitting there with contraptions, making himself look a lot bigger and projecting him as a fearful being, where he is just orchestrating a lot of machines. And it was Pluto, or Toto, that actually unveils the curtain so that people can see who the wizard really is. Pluto is the dog star. He is also Shiva. He is a transmuter and a transformer, and he abounds in truth. We are living at a time where our political system had set himself up like a king, thinking that he is doing God's will, thinking that he knows what's going on, where he is staging himself in his game as the Antichrist, because he's part of the fascist movement and trying to create the Third World Reich. And there is a true king. There is a Christ consciousness. There is a Buddha consciousness. There is a movement coming that is coming through the hearts of the people, that is showing up with authenticity. And that energy is going to overcome the Antichrist, is going to overcome these eons of time that we have been under through the Yahweh matrix, ruled over by the architect Jehovah, controlled through various forms of wars. And we will exceed it. Now, there is an alchemy in this ancient prophecy that Abel's seed, that creation from YHWH would be bruised in the head, which is a fatal injury. And the scriptures also say, fear not those who can kill the body, but the body and the soul in Gehenna. There is a deep karmic reckoning. And the second death, which is known as the lake of fire, is also done with great love as guardians to correct the universal imbalances that create health contrasts and constructs. Because energies created by this Archon and those who followed him through the Galactic Wars, the Orion Wars, through the Draco Reptilians, through the Zeta Reptiles, through the Jehovian, Thothian, Anunnaki alliances, through the negative alien agendas that had sought to only help themselves at the expense of others, are now at their reckoning. All these energies are already marked. They are known. And when they leave this planet with their physical bodies, they receive a death. And their spirit receives a second death because they are now sent to the Abaddon, to the black hole, for their spirit to be spaghettified and sent back to source as space dust with great love. Because Source said, I am making all things new. The true Christ, Yeshua, was not the son of Jehovah. The true Christ belonged to that serpent line that knew the Kundalini, that knew the energy work, that was connected to Source, that understood the concepts of unity consciousness and great healing. It also says in the book of Daniel that stone not cut by human hands would come from a mountain and strike the image that was partially made of molded clay and iron and that image would fall. We're now living in the seventh world power, Anglo-America. That compilation of Britain and the United States that are mixed but do not mix. And Jesus, Yeshua, also said, "He that has faith the size of a mustard seed would say to that mountain, transfer, and it would transfer." We will see the end of the seventh world power, because its immersement, its compilation, is set up underneath all of the facades with genetic manipulation, with looking at AI, using it against the human electromagnetic field, weaponizing it, creating clones, drones, sexualizing it so that you have sex objects as robots to do whatever you feel like, and not understanding that there is a sacredness in the consciousness of everything. This creates huge imbalances, and those imbalances will be resolved. It's showtime. Pay attention to the man behind the curtain and understand the dog star is rooted in truth, is leading you out of this matrix through your heart to be able to see the things that are hidden. Happy revelations.